Hey guys, today in this war, I'm doing a two-man boss rush, with my buddy in my battle group, Bean, and I will be showcasing a couple of his fights on the way to this boss rush. So yeah, first up, we've got this Terrax on Power Struggle. This at first glance is a really strong placement because the Power Struggle, it's really hard to increase his power and keep it, reliable in the rock field. So, what you want here is someone who's tanky and can afford to make some mistakes, which is Doom is great because the cheese for this Power Struggle Terrax is kind of complicated. It's a safe cheese, mind you, but it is kind of complicated, so having some experience with how to do it is great. And what you want is the power gain from the L2 buff. We got him to his L2, so we're good to go. And yeah, I'm just trying to bait out this L2, but he is not throwing it. And then I mess up that. Thought I was far away enough, but I was not. And yeah, you want to push him above his L2. And as you can see, we are at our L3 now. Rockstack's going to start doing a lot of damage, though, because he's had it on for a while. And we're in the corner now, so I just need to throw my L3 and hopefully get to an L2 after this. Now, mind you, it's going to be pretty damn difficult to get to my L2. I could have gone for the cheese. I decided to wait out Rockfield instead of going for like a second L3. I decided I was in a comfortable enough position that I did not need to take the extra damage from Rockfield. And yeah, here my lights are not giving much power towards Power Struggle, and that's the difficulty with Doom here. Thankfully, he can afford to give some Furies, like right here. Doesn't really matter. We're going to just build to our L2, throw our L2, and yeah, it's a one fight at this point. And yeah, still have an Emblem charge left, and it's still Doom. And we kill that Terrax. And next up, I have this Moleman versus Ihulk on 14 matchup. I decide to not use another Power Star 1. I was thinking about it. I actually popped the class boost for it. And I just decided against it. I was going to go for the L1 method this war. Because I wasn't going to be able to reach the man thing in time to get the Power Star 1 for both. And yeah, I mean, the Power Cheese method here, it's effective as well, but I wasn't running suicides anyway, so it's not going to be a whole lot quicker than the L1 method, so yeah. And the L1 method also has the advantage of keeping Ihulk fairly low on his gamma charges, which makes it so it's guaranteed for him to never enter immortality, whereas if you go with the power cheese strat, he can do it, but since you're going to be able to block unblockable, it's not really a threat, but it is going to happen likely. And yeah, we're getting ready to throw another L1 here. He gets a Fury. One Fury is fine. Doesn't really matter unless he's starting to stack up like 6, 7 Furies. That's when issues really happen. Yeah, not a big issue. And this L1 will close out the fight, of course. And yeah, finish fight there. Next up, we've got a R4 Man-Thing on 20. And the Terrax was also R4, by the way. And on this Man-Thing, I get pretty bad RNG. I don't get as bad RNG as is possible, but I get pretty bad RNG, and it's an R4 Man-Thing, so it turns out to be a really damn long fight. Yeah, really long fight. Man-Thing is the perfect fight for Doom here, though. He's just such an excellent counter. I've had all the RNG go wrong here, and I've still soloed it every time that's happened. And when the RNG doesn't go wrong, you get a really, really smooth fight. As long as you know how to handle yourself when the RNG goes wrong, I don't see any reason to not use Doom here, honestly. He is just super safe for it. And now we're just using Mystic Dispersion to build to our L3. After this armor up expires, we will be there, and we're going to throw this. He's going to have 6 charges after this L3, so I need to keep that in mind for the Hit Me, I Dare You combo. And, yeah. He gets this. He doesn't dash off during the Unstoppable, which normally the AI would, but the AI has been really wonky recently. I think they've made changes to it. And yeah, my Fury gets nullified there. Whatever, not a big deal. We're just going to build right back up to that L3. And we are going to wait out Unstoppable Armor there. It's nice that he got the armor up, but he didn't get the Unstoppable, because what this means is I'm going to get extra Mystic Dispersion power after my L3, which just makes the cycle a little bit easier. Yeah, that's always a good thing. And then here, I just bait out this L2. Because he was at 9 charges. And yeah, I probably could have just thrown my L3 there. Fury gets nullified. We get a poison on us. Not a big deal. Again, you're gonna hear me saying not a big deal about a lot of the mistakes in this fight, because it's just that safe of a fight, you know? Doom, excellent option here. Definitely the best option, without a doubt. And yeah, here we get our L3. And we're about to go into L2s. He's low enough that I should just start my L2 cycle. And he dexes that, thankfully. Another mistake. It wouldn't have mattered if he hit into us, but it would have been slightly longer of a fight. And yeah, Mystic Dispersion power helps here, and then he hits me, and then I throw my L2 again, and the fight's just over at this point. So yeah, another decent solo. And then next up we have a Peni Parker on node 22. Now the trick with this Peni is you need to be turning on 3 out of 3 Pacify. I also have 3 out of 3 Petrify turned on this fight, which makes it just so much easier to just get to your L3. She's going to get a lot less bars with 3 out of 3 Petrify, since every hit you're doing is while she's stunned, and 3 out of 3 Pacify stops all of the abilities while she's stunned. And yeah, that all makes this quite a safe fight. And we get the Horseman for Magneto. This is nice for my boss. I get parried here. It's a good thing I have that Horseman. Yeah. What the Horseman does for Magneto is it increases the chance of his L3 bleeds to 91% instead of 70%. And this is really nice for the boss fight in particular, because sometimes if you don't get lucky enough or you don't have enough prowess, your L3 won't kill. And that's not normally an issue, but this is where I'm going to be taking it with Aspect of Evolution link up. And what this means is the more stacks of power he gets, the higher of a chance he has of triggering the armor through my magnetism and everything, because it gives increased ability accuracy, it gives extra combat power rate, block, penetration, all sorts of stuff that you just don't want to deal with, and you just want to end the fight before all of that comes into play. So that's why I'm going with the Horseman, so I have a little bit of flexible room with the amount of prowess I need. You should only need somewhere around 20 to kill after your L3. Obviously, any more you can get will be amazing. And yeah, here I need to parry before my L3 to make sure the Furies will not trigger Power Snack, and also to make sure backup recovery doesn't happen here. So yeah, and then the fight's just over. We get 32 bleeds there. She's just dead. And now next up is a fight from my buddy Bean in this battle group. And he is taking this Colossus on Mixmaster, and then he's going to apply the House of X pre-fight on that Kraven. So yeah. Thank you to Bean for sending over this fight and his Black Panther Civil War fight later in this war, and he's using his rank 4 Nimrod, and it is just a stupidly silly champion. Nimrod just absolutely destroys anything mutant, anything prowess, anything with regen, really just anything. He's a beast. And yeah, what you're going to see Bean doing is just medium, light, medium combos for Mixmaster, of course. Due to Mixmaster, you can't really control when you change phases, so you do have to rely on the own timing of it. But as you can see, he's in the orange mode now, and he goes into his ult 2 with 10 armor ups, which gives really, really strong shocks. The more armor ups you have, the more damage you're going to be dealing. And yeah, at this point, he's building up to a second L2, and that L2 will kill. And yeah, great fight for Nimrod. Gonna be really hard to die to a fight like that. Just ends it without a worry. And then next up is my Kraven on Footloose with Dr. Doom. So for this Kraven, we still have our Mystic Power back boost. We're gonna have a House of X. Normally the danger with Kraven is he reduces the duration of non-damaging debuffs for every time one is applied to him. But Doom can't apply non-damaging debuffs other than the parry stun. So if you have a White Mag's pre-fight to make those stunts passive, he's not going to get any of that. And you've basically just got a simple Doom versus Kraven fight. And he is going to get his trap, but the nice thing about Doom here is the L3 does actually go far enough that you're going to be able to avoid the trap. So if he does end up throwing a special, hopefully he just doesn't, but in this fight he does end up throwing a special. What you're going to be able to do is just immediately go into your L3. You'll trigger, you'll unarm the trap, I mean. And yeah, here we're blocking a bunch to get him higher on power. And we do this just in case he threw a special, which he did, and wanted to make sure I had that stagger up. And I'm trying to block all these hits to make sure he's still decent on power, because after this L3, I really don't want to throw it when he's at too low of power, because then he's going to have a higher chance to throw another L1, and that would not be ideal. It's much better to bait the L2s than the L1 against Kraven. So yeah, and what I do is this. I should have done a medium, and then done the whites, and that probably would have been a better way to end this fight, but we push him above his L2 again, throw my L2, we got Mystic power back, so we get a bar back, and yeah, fight's over. Doom's excellent counter to that fight, and Kraven in general. So now next up we have a Sorcerer on node 27, pop in a combat regen with Moment. And yeah, this fight is pretty easy. You just need to be baiting her specials, and when you go into Frenzy, she's going to apply slow, which will stop your unstoppable buff, which is normally not a good thing, but against a Mystic like Sorcerer it is, because then you won't be getting Mystic Dispersion. And yeah, I'm planning for this fight to go long due to baiting specials. So my plan for the start is to just stack up a bunch of monster mass, so I have as many as I need for however long the fight goes. I did not mean to activate the Unstoppable there, but now we need to bait this L2. And she throws it fairly quickly, thankfully. And then we get the slow, which is also nice, because that means we're not going to apply the Unstoppable anymore. She's not going to get that extra Mystic Dispersion power. That's great. Then we throw our first L2. Gets Sorcerer pretty low. And yeah, we just need to end the fight out here. Though I think the bleeds just end up ending the fight there. And yeah, nice and easy fight with Moman. Then here up is my death to Knull. This is one of the worst deaths I've had in a long time. It's inevitable. When you play war for so long, you're going to have a bad fight like this. I die to it. I had a lot of chances to salvage this fight. There was a lot I could have done better here. And yeah, just on me. It was a really bad fight. But whatever. I hadn't had a bad death like that for a while, so it was a good run without bad deaths. Well, every death is bad, of course, but, you know, that type of death where there's, like, so many things you could have done better instead of just a single mistake. You know, this death. Just bad. I should have done an extra light there, first of all. It wouldn't have had me, trying to go quicker here. We could have baited an L2, been off to safety, but whatever. I time it right so that I'm still in my L2 animation. Didn't time it perfectly, and I should have thrown a heavy here. This would have given me a little more time to bait the L2. Now at this point, I'm worried I'm going to run out of Frenzy, and if I run out of Frenzy, well, then we're going to have a problem. And here he hits into my block without this and does all 5 hits, which gives him just enough power for his L3. And this is going to put reverse controls on me. And I did duel for the reverse controls, and in my head, I had it down. First L2, we get off just to get my head back in the fight. I knew I had to just immediately throw whatever special I had. And here, I parry, reparry, and then I swear to God, I felt like I was swiping in the right direction. I don't know what happened. And then I felt like I threw this L2 at the right time, but I did not. And yeah, I try to reparry again, and we make the same mistake. I shouldn't have dexed back in. Just a really bad death on my part. One of the worst deaths I've had in a while, but again, whatever. Just gotta collect myself and finish out this war cleanly. Doing this boss rush. Yeah, just gotta... Whatever. Deaths happen. you know, it's always going to happen. And then up next, I have Dragon Man on Intercept. And for this Dragon Man, I get really, really bad AI. Again, he doesn't play into, like, any of my intercepts. He's feeling very passive. I've been noticing that with the AI recently. They're just feeling really, really passive. I'm popping the 200% Mystic in hopes that I can intercept into an L3. I make sure it's actually the Mystic because there's always that visual bug. But yeah, I make sure. I try to intercept into an L3 to get the cheese here, but the Dragon Man's AI was just really, really passive here. The past week or so is some of the most annoying AI I have ever seen in this game. And yeah, it's quite frustrating. I keep fairly close attention to AI patterns. I've been doing so for like over a year and a half at this point because it helps in war if you keep paying attention to what the AI patterns are. I've never seen AI nearly as bad as this. And yeah, you just gotta adapt, change your fight strategies to fit this new AI. It sucks, but it happens every now and then you've gotta recollect yourself for the new AI changes. Passive AI always sucks, but you can definitely work around it and change your fight strategies to better suit the passive AI. And yeah. So we're just gonna normal do L3 cycle here, just not much special here. And yeah. After I get my 2 Furies, I'm gonna go for an L2 intercept. I end up mistiming it again. I haven't been able to get these special intercepts off recently. I used to be really, really good about it, and now I haven't gotten them, and I haven't gotten one in so long with Doom. So yeah. Here I go for the special intercept. I thought I had it, did not have it, of course. And yeah, Dragon Man goes really passive here. So I have to get him in here. And I mess up there. Totally on me. And yeah, I could have thrown that L2, but I did not want to risk it. So I'm just going back to my L3. And yeah, the L3 passive stun will remove that power charge, of course. And yeah, after I get through this L3, we're going to go to another L3, and then we're going to kill Dragon Man finally. A really, really slow fight because of passive AI, and I really don't like when the AI is passive. You know, again, you can definitely work around it, but it's just not fun, you know? Really dislike passive AI. And yeah. But the fight is basically over at this point. It's a really, really easy fight with Doom. So I wasn't too worried about it, but after dying, I did pop that invuln just to be safe. Because not gonna die twice to easy fights, you know? Just not allowing that to happen. And yeah, for this Hulkbuster, it's just Magneto. We turn back on 3 out of 3 not 3 out of 3 Petrify, 3 out of 3 Pacify. And yeah, get to your L2, it's a Hulkbuster with Magneto. You turn off everything about this fight. We turned on our bleed suicides for the Heimdall bots, and yeah, just getting this fight done. It's an easy fight with Magneto, nothing special to it. And yeah. After this fight is done, we will be on to Bean's other fight, the Black Panther Civil War on Hazard Shift. He had this war with Falcon. Falcon's a great counter to it. You do have to be careful with getting cornered in that matchup. But he keeps really good control of unstoppable armor by stopping the native ones from Black Panther's kit. And yeah, I'll show that fight in just a second. Wrapping up, we have to make sure we have a stun before we throw this L3. To make sure the L3 bypasses safeguard. And yeah, since my Magneto is Horseman, one armor up is not enough for Hulkbuster to remove any of Magneto's abilities, which is a nice touch. Does not matter in the slightest for such an easy fight, but, you know, nice touch, as usual. Black Panther Civil War on 49 now. Bean is going to be taking this with his Falcon. He's going to be popping on some skill boosts. This is because if you throw your L2, you get a solid amount of power back after you throw the L2. And yeah. He's going to be popping on an invulnerability boost as well. And for this fight, again, you just want to only hit during you're locked on. This is the same strategy for basically any hazard shift fight. And of course, you do still have to worry about the unstoppable armor timer, but Falcon is a great counter for this. And he has half suicides, only the double edge half, to give that extra damage, since Falcon is highly lacking in damage, but not lose too much health. And Bean is trying to play aggressive here to get good spacing at the start, blocking the L1 because he wasn't in the right spacing to dodge it, and now he does get cornered here. Just got to dex the heavies. Black Panther Civil War does not have the hardest heavy to dex in the world, so you're still in a safe position at this point, getting locked on back on. Then he gets a nice clean intercept there, and he's back in the fight pretty much. So you just need to get out of that corner. I'm going to try to get another intercept, and then he's got this L3 debate, from L2 debate, I mean, from Black Panther Civil War, and he does have an invuln if he makes any mistakes at this point. So he's in a good spot now. 45% left on Black Panther Civil War, gets locked on, back on there, but he needs to watch out for unstoppable armor, of course. Blocks that L1, retaliates, goes into a special 2, gets off a good chunk of damage there, blocks the L1 again, and then goes to throw the L1 to get good spacing, to wait out for his next lock on to make sure he can just end this fight out, because he knows the fight's going to be over before another L2, and he takes a risk there and hits in. Not ideal, but he did it to make sure he wouldn't get cornered, I assume, and yeah. Then the fight is over. Bean did an excellent job of handling that Black Panther Civil War, and now it's on to me for this Heimdall boss. He's applying a House of X pre-fight for me just to make sure my L3 kills. And yeah. And now I take over. Going into this fight, we have a 200% mutant and a 12% mutant. You will see these come into play later in the fight. And then we have an advanced power boost, as I was talking about early in this video. You really want to pay attention to Aspect of Evolution and not let him get too many bars of power. The PS1 helps a huge deal here. Now, for this fight, I practiced the heavy counter a lot. This way to heavy counter his heavy is completely safe. And you are likely to get cornered in this fight. You just need to keep your composure in the corner. All of his animations are perfectly fine for you in the corner. The main issue when you get in the corner is building up your heavy charge prowess. I charge the heavy there, build up some of the temporary prowess, and after one more heavy, we're going to just do the unstoppable heavy charging thing. He's going to hit into it, but we have the unstoppable. We have more than enough health left. We throw our L3. It's going to push him to his L2, and we don't want him throwing that because it does have a chance to go unblockable if he has any of his buffs. He does not have a buff at any of the buffs at this point, but that unstoppable armor up could have been a buff to trigger for the unstoppable, but we armor rogue it, and then we take unstoppable armor down for all of these fights, which is really, really nice when you can boss